Wow, let's upload this photo on Instagram. This is inappropriate.
With the ever-growing use of social media marketing and communication, businesses turn to their capable employees to act as the spokespeople for their company in the social media sphere. This presentation will establish guidelines for these employees to maintain an ethical and professional image when using social media at work, about work, and for work. In order to stand out from all of the noise and clutter that is online on social media, companies have turned to personalization in order to stand out and make their brand clear and relatable. Employees are one way to add this personal touch. Each one of their employees are unique and have personal stories to share and varying levels of customer care and service. The personalized content that employees produce online can then be shared with customers and clients in order to build a relationship and loyalty to a company brand. Employees can interact with content in many ways on social media, posting on Facebook, tweeting out information, or responding to customers and clients by adding comments. As an employee entrusted with the use of social media, it is important to establish the difference between your personal use and professional use. There is a fine line between personal use and professional use, especially when companies encourage personalization. However, there are ways to maintain an ethical and appropriate approach to social media interactions. The following two examples will demonstrate what can happen when employees misuse their social media privileges. In 2011, an employee from Chrysler's outsourced social media company, New Media Strategies, sent out this R-rated tweet, having apparently just suffered through a difficult morning commute. The employee responsible was promptly fired. Chrysler later apologized, saying Chrysler Group and its brands do not tolerate inappropriate language or behavior, and apologized to anyone who may have been offended by this communication. Following the mishap, Chrysler fired New Media Strategies and clarified on their blog that they did not request that the employee be fired, but that it was a decision made by New Media Strategies. Chrysler then reinforced their commitment to promoting Detroit and its hardworking people, and with so much goodwill built up over a very short time, they could not afford to jeopardize this progress. In another example, the tweet featured in the above left appeared on the Twitter account of the American Red Cross. The person responsible for the tweet was someone who had access to the Red Cross Twitter account and made a mistake using Hootsuite. The employee followed up with a tweet on the above right. The Red Cross handled the situation pretty entertainingly by releasing a charming follow-up tweet, seen below. The best part of all of this is that the Red Cross managed to turn this digital faux pas into receiving donations, as Dogfish Head Brewery, whose beer was mentioned in the accidental tweet, encouraged donations. Both companies take different approaches to the issue with their employees, and whether one is the right way or the wrong, that is difficult to judge when considering each company has its own prerogatives and guidelines for ethical conduct. Looking at these issues from a consequentialist or utilitarian framework, it is important to remember that online, you are considered the spokesperson for your company, and it is necessary to follow ethical guidelines when creating, reposting, and responding to content. First and foremost, it is important to establish whether your employer has a social media policy in place. With the growing number of companies with an online presence, more and more companies are adopting guidelines for social media use. For the number of businesses out there that don't enforce a written social media policy, this presentation will be helpful to those employees endowed with social media responsibilities by including an ethical framework and guidelines to follow online. Digital media scholars have stressed many different ethical practices to follow when presenting yourself online. They are based on basic principles, and a helpful way to remember them is to think of respect in the workplace and for your employer. From the Bloomberg Law, this helpful acronym easily identifies the major ethical components that should be applied when enforcing a social media policy by both businesses and employees. Responsibility. Employees must be responsible about three things: the content that they post, the audience that their posts reach, and the potential effects of an improper post. A social media policy needs to inform employees to be responsible when posting, particularly about sensitive topics. Etiquette. Just because information is posted on social media does not mean that it is absolutely protected by law. An employee who uses social media to harass, intimidate, or bully other employees runs afoul of an employer's legal requirements to maintain a workplace free of harassment and discrimination. Selectivity. Social media can be used as a means of advancing an employer's business. Every day, employees reference new products or services their employers are offering, successful projects they have completed, and the like. By the same token, when employees see negative posts about their employer or about work they have done, they feel compelled to respond. The decision about when to respond, what to say, and who the responder should be are decisions that need to be made on a corporate level, and employees need to know not to feed the troll. Privacy. The NLRB recognizes that employers have a legitimate need to maintain privacy over certain information about their employees, customers, and business practices. Among many other things, a good social media policy will prohibit employees from delving into truly private matters such as medical issues, leave, or identifying information about employees, including social security numbers or dates of birth. Efficiency. Social media can be a valuable tool, but it can also be a major distraction for employees who overuse it at work. While acknowledging that the use of social media is inevitable, employers should also encourage employees to limit their use of social media at work. A good social media policy will make clear that although employees may periodically use social media at work, they will be held to the same expectations about their performance. Confidentiality. Every employer has confidential, non-public information. Business plans, pricing models, attorney-client privilege documents, and information that could affect the employer's stock value. In all likelihood, employers already have confidentiality policy pertaining to those items, and then we also require employees to sign a confidentiality agreement. Employees should find themselves restricting themselves from disclosing that type of information on any social media site. Transparency. The way that employers gain credibility with the outside world in social media is by being transparent and honest about their posts. Transparency has to be a hallmark of a thorough social media policy. Employees must know that when posting about their employer, they must identify that they are affiliated with the company. For example, using the hashtag employee in their tweets. In order to see these elements in practice, let's look at Best Buy, which has a focus on privacy. Some highlighted information from their social media policy includes the following. The company does not want information shared that isn't meant to be public. Tweeters cannot share Best Buy logos and other items related to the company. Best Buy wants each employee to differentiate themselves and state their tweets and posts are theirs and theirs alone, and not associated with Best Buy. Walmart is another example that has a social media policy that has a focus on customer service. Walmart wants to make sure its employees who are official Twitter users for Walmart are identified as such, stick to customer replies, and focus on this alone. Walmart's Twitter users should only talk about Walmart and not engage in unnecessary banter. Regardless of whether you use social media for work, at work, or about work, your image and actions are a valuable asset to your employer, and therefore should be respected when presented in person and online. Companies appreciate professionalism, especially when they allow employees certain freedoms of expression. If you follow the given guideline and don't give your company the social middle finger, you may just get along great in your position with online influence, and that is an ethical approach much liked.
Please, money.